Clerk, call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Marty Van Ravensway, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation today will be delivered by Pastor Charles Levine from Terrace Acres Baptist Church. Pastor Levine, thank you very much for coming out today. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessings of liberty and of life. We ask you to be present in these proceedings today, to fill the administrators and the county judge with understanding of the issues that they'll deliberate and your wisdom as they allocate resources. We thank you for all the privileges and blessings you give us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We're going to have to just stand in the office and do that until we get our cases out.
Manius, agenda announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have one announcement as it relates to the agenda this morning. This concerns the Administrator section, item 9A18, which are the out-of-state travel requests. There's a new court communication in your red folder. We've added a number of individuals to the previous one. With that, those are the only changes to the agenda at this time.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of September the 22nd. So moved. Approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have several proclamations this morning. Commissioner Brooks, I believe you have the first one.
I do, and normally it would be my practice to ask you to read this into the record, but I suspect that you would appreciate me if I read this one myself.
Thank you very much. I would.
This proclamation honors Binational Health Week. Whereas Binational Health Week has become one of the largest mobilization efforts in the Americas to improve the health and well-being of underserved immigrants and migrants of Mexican and Latin American origin living in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. And whereas Binational Health Week encompasses an annual week-long series of health promotion and health education activities that include workshops, insurance referrals, and medical screenings. And whereas Binational Health Week is going to be celebrated in 3 provinces in Canada, in 46 Mexican consulates, in 31 of the United States, 11 Guatemalan and 12 Salvadorian consulates, and in the Mexican states with high rates of migration. And whereas Mexican origin migrants and immigrants and their families have limited access to health care, and improving the health of mobile populations requires multiple approaches in service design, delivery, funding priorities, and most fundamentally requires a strong commitment. And whereas Binational Health Week main partners include the Secretariats of Health and of Foreign Affairs of Mexico, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Colombia, the Institute for Mexicans Abroad, the Mexican Social Security Institute, the United States-Mexico Border Health Commission, the Council of Mexican Federations in North America, and various government and community organizations in the United States. And whereas a large part of the Binational Health Week is due to the existing partnerships and networks, including the county and city health organizations, the public health system, the community clinics, and Mexican hometown associations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim the days of October 3rd through 15th, 2009, as Binational Health Week in Tarrant County. And further, Tarrant County encourages efforts that help increase the health and well-being of all people and supports the partnerships that can increase access and awareness of available health services. In witnesses whereof, we have hereunder set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 29th day of September 2009, and I move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Present to receive this proclamation should be Alicia Herrick, health educator at Tarrant County's Public Health Department.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
On behalf of Tarrant County Public Health and the Binational Health Week Steering Committee, I would like to thank you, Judge Whitley, and the commissioners, specifically Commissioner Brooks, for this proclamation. As an employee of Tarrant County Public Health, it is not only our responsibility, but it's our moral obligation to ensure that the residents of Tarrant County have access to quality health care. Health disparities are the unjust and preventable differences in health in different populations. By supporting events such as these, we are ensuring that the community is able to reduce those health disparities and empower the need for their own quality health care. So please join us this Saturday, October 3rd, for the 4th Annual Carnaval de Salud. It's not just another health fair. We will be offering a lot of education, such as healthy cooking demonstrations. The Master Gardeners will be there for gardening tips, the farmers market, and we will be offering services such as cholesterol, glucose, diabetes screenings, and also, of course, free flu shots. So please join us. Thank you again.
Thank you.
I'd like to also recognize the presence. Never mind.
Commissioner Brooks, I believe you have another resolution of commendation.
This resolution of commendation honoring the life achievements of Reba Carey, a community treasure in Tarrant County, was presented this past Sunday. It honors his lifetime of service to both the African American community specifically and to Tarrant County and the state of Texas in general. This past Sunday, his church, New Rising Star Baptist Church, dedicated a set of carolings in his memory, and this, as I say, it's already been presented, so I move its ratification.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, Your Honor. If you would read the proclamation for 4-H Week in Tarrant County into the record, please.
Whereas, as a part of Texas AgriLife Extension Service, Tarrant County 4-H upholds its original mission to prepare youth to meet the challenges of life by developing positive life skills through hands-on educational experiences and actively pursues avenues of quality programming designed to meet the current needs of our dynamic society. And whereas the most popular projects in Tarrant County include photography, horses, public speaking, animal science, and family consumer sciences, all designed to provide opportunities for youth to develop leadership, citizenship, and teamwork skills, whereas the 4-H program in Tarrant County reaches youth in urban, suburban, and semi-rural communities and is composed of 600 club members and 135 volunteers who actively participate in monthly and weekly activities that encourage youth to fulfill their potential and serve their communities. And whereas additionally 13,000 youth participate in annual 4-H sponsored short-term programs in Tarrant County, through which youth are empowered to apply their knowledge and skills to make a difference in the lives of others.
Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim October 4th through 10th, 2009 as 4-H Week in Tarrant County. In witness thereof, I have heretofore set the hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 29th day of September 2009.
I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And Cindy Bryant, our 4-H County Extension Agent, and Cammy Butler, Youth Recipient, will meet me at the podium. You know, these girls just keep getting prettier and prettier. How are you this morning? Well, let me present this to you, and for all the hard work that y'all do, and comment each one.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, my name is Cammy Butler. I'm from the Eagle Mountain 4-H. I'm a 4-H ambassador in Tarrant County, and I preside in Commissioner Johnson's precinct. I'd like to thank the Commissioners Court for their faithful support in Tarrant County 4-H, and Commissioner Johnson for his direct involvement in supporting 4-H. Also, I'd like to thank the court for recognizing National 4-H Week with this proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm not asking you for money today to help out.
I think the emphasis was on today.
But the sale will be coming.
Yeah, I've got an idea that we'll get a notice soon. We do very much appreciate your passion for this particular area, and I know that it was there long before I came on the court, but it's certainly been there since I've been on this court, and we appreciate that very
An
much.
outstanding program, and a lot of people learn a lot of things in that 4-H program. And we're lucky to have the county extension agent's office that we have here in Tarrant County.
We've had some great agents, and they do a great job. Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. The motion passes unanimously. Public hearings.
Your Honor, we have one public hearing this morning. It concerns the preservation and restoration of records archive within the district clerk's office. Mr. Wilder is here to address the court at this time.
Thank you, members of the court. Mr. Manus, today we are asking the court to approve a fee that was authorized by the legislature for the archiving of the older district court records that we currently have no backup on at all. If you saw the story in the Star-Telegram yesterday, there was a picture of those documents that are folded up like life insurance policies. They're in pretty bad shape, as they are in most district clerks' offices around the state. The legislature recognized that and gave us the means to fund that operation where we would restore those records and put them in a position to be digitized, as this court did back some years ago on our original imaging project. I urge you to approve this. It's a cost-efficient way to do it. The one picture that the photographer took yesterday that didn't make the paper was all the people that were in our records section. They just got one lady looking at those big books that we still use to look up older records, as do most clerks' offices. But if the camera had panned around that way, you would have seen the restroom full of people in there looking up records in our disposed records section. So it is something that goes on every hour of every day. And then, of course, our clerks look up the records for the judges and for court cases, and they typically will pull those up, if they can, on the records that are currently digitized. So I urge the court to approve this, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
This is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone here who wishes to speak to this subject. There appearing none, then I will close the public hearing and ask if there's any action.
I just wonder if the files are folded like his feet were in that photo in the Star-Telegram this morning. But it sounds like he does need the help. I would move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, under the Administrator section, item 1, we're requesting that the court approve and authorize the county judge to sign an agreement for funding for Department of Family and Protective Services staff. This is for FY10. This is in conformity with the FY10 budget.
Move approval. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 2, we're requesting that the Commissioners' Court approve a renewal of a contract for medical examiner services with Nizam Perwani, MD, PA.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 3, we're requesting that the court approve a software license agreement between Tarrant County and Midland County for a non-exclusive, non-transferable license to Midland County concerning certain aspects of the Tarrant County's criminal court case management system.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 4, we're requesting that the Commissioners' Court consider changing the funding category in the 2006 Transportation Bond Program relating to the East Rosedale project. This is an item that Commissioner Fickus requested that we place before you. You might recall that initially funding was out of the discretionary funds of Commissioner Brooks. When we made our initial recommendation, it was for funding to come from the monies that were associated with the bond package, but outside of the discretionary amount, there is funds available for consideration of this action.
Let me move approval of that project.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
I thank the court.
Spread the wealth.
Your Honor, members of the court, on item number 5, we're requesting that the court approve the transaction or approve adoption of a resolution in support of a tax-exempt tri-party lease agreement or lease financing agreement between Lavernia Higher Education Finance Corp., Cosmos Foundation, and Regions Equipment Finance Corporation in an amount not to exceed $6,665,000, proceeds of which would be used to finance or refinance costs of certain educational facilities in Tarrant County. Those facilities are the Harmony School, which is located in Euless, Texas. There is a letter concerning our hub policy attached to this request. There is no obligation or commitment from the county on this. This is simply to satisfy sections of the Internal Revenue Code.
I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I took a tour of this school last week, Harmony School in Euless, and I was very impressed what they're doing.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 6, we're requesting that the Commissioners' Court adopt the District Court Records Archive fee of $5 for the filing of a suit, including appeal from an inferior court or a cross-action, counterclaim, intervention, contempt action, motion for a new trial, or third-party petition in a District Court of Tarrant County. And we further request that the court establish the District Court Records Technology Fund for the deposit of this new fee. This action is in accordance and is referenced in the public hearing that we had earlier this morning. Also, with the approval of this, Ms. Schneider has recommended how that fee is to be set up.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? So, in the public hearing, we approved the plan, and now we're approving the fee to fund the plan.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Finally, members of the court, on item number 7, we're requesting that the court designate the new sub-courthouse in Arlington as an auxiliary court and an auxiliary county seat. You might recall that the old sub-courthouse had that designation, and we do hold several court hearings in those locations, and in order to continue that in the new location, we need action by the court on this particular request.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Tidwell?
This morning, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court receive and file the Tarrant County financial statements for the 11 months ended August 31st, 2009.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Snyder?
You approve the plan, you approve the fee, now you get to approve the budget. This is the last step in the budget process for FY10. That's approval of special purpose budgets, which also includes capital. You notice in your cover page we've made a few recommendations, adjustments to capital from where we left at our last court meeting, minor in nature. I do want to make a note, there is 10 positions throughout the special purpose budgets that are scheduled to be eliminated. Our comment is that they all would be vacant at the time of their elimination. It's come to our attention that we may have to waive on the date a little bit on one of the positions in the Narcotics Task Force to ensure that it is vacant. At this time, we don't think it'll impact the funding. We really won't know that until we get to the end of the fiscal year, but if it does require some additional funding, we'll come back to you with that information. With those comments, we are recommending their approval.
I have two questions, if I could.
Sure.
Page 50 and page 51. Page 50 is the county clerk professional liability, and 51 is district clerk.
Correct.
In the law, these are in the section. There's $500,000 in the county clerk's fund. That's the limit, and that's over the $500,000. Is that interest income or what?
It's interest that was earned all those years. We did stop collecting the fee on both of those accounts when they reached their statutory limits.
On both of these?
On both of those.
Okay, well, there wasn't anything in here indicating that, so I just...
Yeah, we'll add a comment to let you know, and we'll go back and research to kind of give you an idea when we stop collecting the fee.
Debbie, if it dips below then that required section of those maximums, do we then reinstitute the fee, and does that take court action to do that?
That will require some research too. I haven't read that law in quite a few years because we've been over the maximums for so long, but either us or the district attorney's office would be happy to take a look at that and give you the information.
You might as well let them look at it, because if you look at it, they're going to relook at it.
Lawyers this, lawyers that.
We haven't motion yet?
No.
I would move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
David.
Thank you very much for all your work on the budget. Thank your department, and again, thank everyone in the county for the way you really buckled down this year.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have a couple of items. The first one is a subrogation recovery in the amount of $5,000, requesting authorization for the auditor to cash the check.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Second item is a renewal of our agreement with the DA's office, Tarrant County and West, for our computerized legal research. I want to thank the administrator's office for getting this thing on the agenda at the last second, because we had apparently West just found out that this was the end of September. October was coming soon.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Glenn.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have three items for the court this morning. The first item, we're asking the court to receive and file the personnel agenda.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Receive and file personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The second item, you actually have a corrected court communique. We're asking for the approval of waiver of terminal benefits for the County Criminal Court number 10. The County Criminal Court is losing a court coordinator at the end of this month, and this individual has 370 vacation hours. So Judge Sorrells is asking for a waiver. The net impact to the general fund will be approximately $850.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our third and final item, we're asking the court to approve a waiver of paternal benefits for the district clerk's office. The district clerk is requesting a waiver for criminal tax admin clerk, who is retiring at the end of this month with 400 vacation hours. This individual directs the work of several deputy clerks and is the only position, this is the only position of its kind in the district clerk's office. The impact to the general fund is approximately $8,500.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith? No. Hi there, how are you? It's much better.
Good morning.
He's out. He'll be out for a while. About a year and a half ago, we started a pilot project with Justice of the Peace Precinct 1 and 2, where we actually stopped evictions when they were right at court. And since then, it's been very successful. And since then, we've applied for stimulus money, which we received, and we're going to be able to open up this program to all the Justice of the Peace precincts in Tarrant County. So today we were asking for your approval to approve a contract with the City of Fort Worth and the City of Arlington so we can start doing this project.
Move for approval for the contract between both the City of Fort Worth and the City of Arlington.
Right.
Second.
We have a second. Discussion.
I'd like to be briefed on this program.
Okay. Now, or do you want us to meet with you privately?
Offline will be fine.
The money, you mentioned money from the stimulus package. Is that the approximately $280,000?
Yes.
Okay, and that's the contract that we've entered into with Arlington and with Fort Worth?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions?
Now, Your Honor, let me just make sure that everyone understands that this is both items 1 and 2. Under that, there's the first one with the City of Fort Worth is $279,000, and the one with Arlington is $99,688.
Was that the motion?
Yes, it was.
So the motion is to approve items H, 1, and 2.
It's 300.
Is that a flip?
$79,000.
So that,
roughly.
yeah. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Ms. Brewer.
Morning. We have one item for your approval today. This is a memorandum of understanding with Girls, Inc. of Tarrant County for a student internship program.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I think that, and Ms. Brewer, you might stay up here. Also, Dr. Parker, if you're available. Let us just give you a brief update, if we might. There was some information in the media the other day. We've been working on an issue dealing with the death of a 14-year-old girl, and Dr. Parker, you might want to make just a few comments to the court as it relates to that.
Good morning, Dr. Parker.
Morning.
Morning.
I'm here today to inform the court that Tarrant County Public Health has released the results from laboratory testing that confirms that the school-age child who died on Sunday had the H1N1 influenza virus. This is the first death, the first H1N1 related death in Tarrant County. Tarrant County Public Health will continue to aggressively monitor monitor the incidence of seasonal and H1 influenza in our community. We will continue to communicate with the medical advisory committee that we established early this year, as well as our other medical and public health partners in the community. And on behalf of Tarrant County Public Health, I would like to express our deepest sympathy to the family and friends.
Amen to that.
Any questions, court members?
Dr. Parker and the rest of public health worked very diligently on this issue, and I want to compliment them for how they acted and reacted to this particular issue.
Could we have this sort of briefing as a standing agenda item for a while?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Parker.
Mr. Beecham.
Is he going to talk about Arkansas's football game?
I don't think he's going to mention Arkansas today.
We've been sick the last couple of weeks, but we're going to get well against A&M Saturday.
You want some cheese with that wine?
Good luck.
You want some cheese with that wine?
Would you like to...
We're working on that.
Renee and I are working on a friendly wager with Debbie and Lisa and Betsy to be paid off in court next Tuesday. So Renee and I'll be here. We have 7 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for bid number 2009-132. This is a bid for drainage and channel improvements for the Crystal Creek Estates in Precinct Number 1, the Idlewood Estates in Precinct Number 3. A recommendation will be toward the low bidder, the Fane Group Incorporated, amount of $77,858.70. If approved, we're also seeking contract approval and acceptance of the payment bond from the court.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 2 is another bid award recommendation for our bid number 2009-143. This is our annual contract for welding equipment, supplies, industrial and medical gases. Recommendation will be to award on a per enterprise basis, awarding to the low bidders Metroplex Service and Air Gas Southwest.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 3 is also a bid award recommendation for our bid number 2009-145. This is our annual contract for temporary labor used by facilities management. Recommendation would be to award the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors as shown in your court communique.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 4 is another bid award recommendation for bid number 2009-147. This is our annual contract for the installation of geotextile paving fabrics for use in precincts 4 and 2. A recommendation is to award a per enterprise basis, awarding to Vance Brothers Incorporated.
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 5 is another bid award recommendation for bid number 2009-149. This is a bid for the painting of the Tim Curry Criminal Justice Center. Our recommendation is to award only the base bid amount of $125,000 to J.H. Proof Rock Incorporated. We're also seeking contract approval and acceptance of the performance of the payment bond.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes. What is it that we're painting over there? Is it interior, exterior, what?
Exterior.
I didn't know it was painted.
And are we doing this all in conjunction with the renaming of that center, and so that we'll all get this done at the same time?
Hopefully.
That's our goal.
Don't say too much.
We are coordinating this, Your Honor.
If that's your goal, then can you make it the contractor's goal?
Yes, sir.
What would make that goal not happen? Something we might do, or something you might do?
Rain.
Could be rain, the actual scheduling of the work. There is quite a bit of preparation regarding the structural steel on the roof and things. Really, this is all the green on the outside of the roof except for the quarter-round barrel on the perimeter. But we're having some major rusting and issues on all the ornamental iron on the side of the building. Basically what the issue is.
Well, let me ask the question a little bit differently. Is it likely that we're going to get the building renamed at least prior to the time that we have completed maybe all of this repainting?
I believe the signage for the building will be ready in November for the 6 signs that go on the exterior of the building. The directories, the internal directories are getting redone completely. We haven't got a feel for that exactly because we need to cover up the old directory area where the holes are in the cast stone. So I really don't have that schedule on the top of my head, but I will certainly get that to you.
And when do you estimate the painting may be completed? Not before November.
November.
It would probably be November, December at least, because they've got a lot of preparation.
Well, my hope was at least that we have the new signs up so that if we do have the holes or something like that, that we can kind of get that repaired as we're doing the painting and stuff.
Have we set a date for the dedication of the building?
Not at this time.
That's
my calendar.
The critical date, not when we hang the sign.
Well, what we're trying to coordinate is not only the signage piece, so that we have the names on the buildings, but also the interior work that we're going to have done as far as the facial and the plaque and everything. So that's in development right now. We've sent that to the company that's going to make that. So what we're doing, we're trying to coordinate all together.
Coordinate all of these activities so that they dovetail with the date for dedication of the building. Is that not right?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We wouldn't dedicate it until it's done.
We'll make it work.
Keep going, Jack.
We haven't voted yet, have we? We have? One of you shaking your head yes, and the other shaking your head no. So we're going to vote again regardless of what we have done. Do we have a motion and a second?
Yes.
Okay. And the light's on up there, so it must be a unanimous vote. So we're ready to go.
Number 6 is another bid award recommendation for our bid number 2009-151. This is our annual contract for microfiche and microfilm equipment, maintenance and supplies. Recommendation would be to award on a per enterprise basis, awarding to the primary and secondary vendors as shown in your court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Number 7, our last item is also a bid award recommendation in regards to bid number 2009-152, saying a contract for Type 1 Portland Cement. Recommendation would be to award to Ash Grove, Texas LP, the amount of $111 per ton.
I don't even want to go there. Motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion?
What color is this cement?
Green.
It's yellow on my sheet, but this is a 1-year contract.
You sure?
Please vote. Motion passes 3-2. Now, I'm making the assumption that if that motion hadn't passed, we wouldn't have concrete.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Is that some more concrete for me?
North end of the county has to have concrete.
Okay. Okay. We got it.
We do, but we are going to need to do something about this because the air quality isn't getting any better, and the instance of asthma in southeast Tarrant County is, I think, getting worse. So
it absolutely is, and it does.
Southwest too.
Southeast Fort Worth, primarily Precinct 1, and it does us absolutely no good to keep doing it the same way we've always done it. I protest that, and that's why I voted against it.
Do you have an alternate?
I think if we require an alternate, then one will appear.
I thought we tried that once and found out it was not legal.
Well, you know, somebody's always going to sue us for something. That's
why we've got great attorneys who
DA's
represent us.
office is the largest law firm in the county. Forgive me, Mr. Kelly.
Ms. Lamb?
Thank you, Judge. I'm here today to request that Commissioners Court approve an agreement to acquire, the address is 334 Golden Triangle Circle in Pine Tree Mobile Home Estates, number 2. It's lot 54 of Block 1 under a federal grant from the Texas Department of Public Safety, the Governor's Division of Emergency Management, and the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. We're asking that court also approve a general warranty deed, authorize our staff to perform the necessary duties to carry out the provisions of that agreement, including sign the closing documents, and authorize us payment of the compensation for the property.
I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
What is or was the hazard?
It is a flood. It was a home,
flooding?
a manufactured house that was flooded, and it was a voluntary program, and they have asked for us to acquire the property, and we're working with the City of Fort Worth to make that happen.
Have we, I know you and I discussed this, but have we looked at purchasing other lots in that project that they're not being built on, that their homeowners association owns?
We had
the
this
purpose of taking that money to improve their road?
Yes, sir. We've had those discussions, and we asked them, I think, to go back and talk with their homeowners association and come back to us with a proposal and some plans, and we have not heard back from them.
Okay.
So what you're saying is we would buy the lots if they agreed to take the money that the homeowners association owns lots.
Right.
We buy the lots from the homeowners association. They in turn use those proceeds to improve roads.
With help from probably us and the city and eventually.
What would we do with the lot?
Nothing.
Of a park, because it's in the floodplain. That's part of the, I'm assuming that, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
I'm not sure how many lots, but there's 4 or 5 maybe.
There's probably 4 or 5 in this area, maybe a few others that are outside the floodplain. But it is a voluntary program, so people have to come to us.
These people just got totally beat over the head by a developer and the way the whole thing was built. So.
I understand that, but we've got a county park that we've been trying to get rid of for I don't know how long. I don't know that we need another.
Just to add a wrinkle, though, this property has since been annexed by the City of Fort Worth, and we have a letter of intent from them to accept the property. We're going to do the conveyance because we'd already started, and they will accept it afterwards. So it will not be in the county.
That's a good wrinkle.
That's a good solution.
We've already voted, I think, haven't we? Y'all both agree we voted? Okay, I think that's it.
You're supposed to keep up with us.
Well, I have my little X to it that implies that we have, but this has been
I don't think we voted. I think that was you asked for comments.
We didn't vote. Your Honor, we did not vote on that.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Johnson.
I have 2 interlocal agreements, one with the City of White Settlement, one with the City of Lake Worth. Item 901, A, B, C, and D. I'd move approval of all.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Appointments. There being none, then you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items.
Your Honor, we have 2 items we'd like to bring to the court this morning. The first one concerns an update on the Nurse-Family Partnership Program. Captain Caldwell is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning. We are going to share with you the progress that was made in the first year of the Nurse Family Partnership.
At the end of August, we had a one-year celebration, and a lot of our community partners joined us at the Resource Connection for that. And I have with me today the two ladies who've made this happen. I introduce, first of all, Florestine Mack, who's Division Manager for Community Health Promotion. She's going to share with you some overview of the program. And then after that, Karen Miller is the Nurse Supervisor for the home visiting nurses. So we'll let them share that information with you now.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As we all know, babies do not come with a license. Even though you can get a fishing license, you can get any type of hunting license. However, babies do not come with licenses. And so we're pleased with this program because this program actually allows us to actually work with first-time moms in their communities as far as making sure that they get off to a right start. This is an evidence-based home nursing program. And actually, if you look at the past history for the last, 20 or 30 years, we're going back to some of the basic programs where actually the nurse will actually go out to the home and visit with the mom. Tarrant County is one of 13 sites in the state of Texas, and as I said before, it focuses primarily on first-time mothers. The services are all provided by registered nurses, and we are very grateful to have capable staff who comes from different backgrounds who actually support this particular program. Some of the questions that are raised are who can get the services. As you can see, it's for first-time pregnancy mothers. It's less than 28 weeks, so we try to get them in their first or second trimester of their pregnancy. They have to be Medicaid eligible, and the income is at 185% the federal poverty level, below that. And they have to be a United States citizen or have legal permanent status in the state. I want to go over with you some of our primary goals for this particular program. And as you can see, we want to focus especially on the health outcomes for the mom and engage them in good preventative health practices. And actually, Karen Miller, who's the supervisor, is going to share with you all some of the outcomes as far as our work within the community. We also want to improve the child health and development status. We want to make sure that they're linked into services with their primary care providers and make sure that we identify any type of threats for be it the mother or the family to work with them. One of the good things about this particular program is that it not only focuses on the mother and the baby, but the other individuals within the household. The studies have shown that this particular program has shown provable outcomes not only for the mother and the baby, but the parents and the extended family that lives within the household as well. The third thing is about improving family economic self-sufficiency by helping the parents to get off to the right start. We encourage our parents, if they're in school, to return back to school, find and seek employment, and actually they care for their children. And so this program is a win-win not only for the family but for the community as a whole. We also look at future pregnancies and continue their education and find work as well. Now I'll turn it over to Karen Miller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Our program update. Okay, here we go. Our number of clients enrolled thus far in the program, when this PowerPoint was developed, it was at 180. Of course, we have increased that number. Since then, we're now at 190. The number of active client cases we have is at 150. The number of clients lost to attrition has increased as well, which means the number of clients that have dropped out the program for various reasons, and that has gone to 43 clients. And our number of infants, it's showing at 40. We now have 50 infants that have been born into the program. Some of the program challenges we have faced since the startup of the program have been recruiting families who really benefit from the program. We have identified through referrals from all of our community partners clients that we know need the program, but for whatever various reasons decided not to partake of it. Our other challenge was identifying emergency services such as housing and food. We have a lot of clients that do not have housing. Some are homeless, some are being put out of their homes by parents. They do not have food, so we have identified community partners to provide food and housing for them. We have had clients who have lost babies either to miscarriages or stillbirths. So to find grief counseling for them has been a challenge, but we have come up with some organizations that would provide that for them. And making sure that our clients get into their doctors to receive prenatal care. That has been a major challenge for us, but we have met that as well by working with various hospitals such as JPS, Harris, Arlington, throughout the county. We have been able to make sure that our clients get in for prenatal care, as well as our Tarrant County satellite clinics. Some of our successes have been finding resources to provide fresh fruits and vegetables to our clients. There is a church in Arlington that goes out to the homes of some of our clients that we have determined are in need of these services, and will take the fresh fruits and vegetables to them. We have increased the number of clients who choose to breastfeed. One of our nurses is a certified lactation consultant, and she works with the entire team in helping their parents to breastfeed their infants. Intervening during crisis is another success we've had. We've had situations where there's been domestic violence in the home. We have been able to go in, find shelter for our mothers. We've had clients that, because of various reasons, who have had suicidal ideations, so we've been able to get them into treatment, take them to the hospital, get them on medication if necessary. And the other, of course, as I've already mentioned, has been the housing, and we're working with various agencies to provide housing for our clients. So that has been a major challenge for us, but also a success. And identifying potential health problems in both the mothers and or children. We have a lot of our mothers who have diabetes, hypertension, lupus, various other medical challenges that we've been able to work with them, make sure they're getting their medications, make sure they're getting their treatments, and it has worked great for our program because the outcome was a healthy baby. So that is what we're here for, and those are our challenges and our successes. And this is a picture of our Nurse Family Partnership staff. We have 8 nurses, 1 administrative assistant, and myself I'm the supervisor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it.
I want to thank the Nurse Family Partnership Program and Public Health for rolling this out in such a successful way. This is one of 13 sites in Texas, and Tarrant County, as always, was there the firstest with the mostest, and our program is a model for the rest of the state. I know this because Arlington City Councilwoman Catherine Wildman and I serve on the statewide Family Partnership Board, and I chair Tarrant County's board. So thank you for rolling this out, for being successful, for being an additional resource to mothers in Tarrant County. Although this is not an infant mortality program per se,
Right.
it is one more tool in the toolbox that helps us to deliver healthy babies in Tarrant County. So thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Members of the Court, a week ago to item B. This concerns an update on the 2006 Capital Improvement Program, specifically the Civil Courts Building. Mr. Phillips is here to address the Court at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This morning's briefing is a presentation on the space needs, the conceptual plans, and total capital budget for the new Civil Courts Building that's included in the 2006 Capital Improvement Program. Last year, Commissioners Court appointed a Civil Courts Building Advisory Committee. That advisory committee is chaired by Dee Kelly, and vice chair is Judge David Evans. They've done a wonderful job for Tarrant County, and I appreciate their effort. Also last year, Commissioners Court engaged the architectural team of HOK, HKS, and Carter Goebel to help with a detailed space needs assessment and conceptual plan of a new building. Also, we hired Yates Construction and Ben Dime Construction as a construction management team to help us with pre-construction design services, and specifically at this early stage, cost estimating. Over the last several months, there have been many meetings regarding the programming and space needs between the architects, the committee members, other departments that are not on the committee that we've actually looked at to be included into the building, and Yates Construction, and also Tracy Pelly. We've also completed what I consider a very comprehensive design charrette exercise that we conducted to help solidify the project as being presented to you today. Today, I will give you an overview of the building, total capital budget. I will also like to discuss some ad alternate possibilities to the base project. Then I will turn it over to Kirk Milligan with HOK to discuss the design concepts of the project. And then I'd like to follow up with a request to Commissioners Court to approve the departments that go into the building, and also approval to move forward with negotiations for a full architectural engineering design contract with HOK and HKS. The overview of the building, basically this building's 190,000 square feet. That's about 70,000 square feet smaller than the Family Law Center. It's about the same height. It's got 6 levels, 5 above ground. It also has 12 civil courts suites, which is a courtroom, and the associated offices that go along with that. 10 of those are for our existing civil district courts, and 2 of those are for future courts, unassigned as of today. Also, there's what I'm going to call a mega courtroom. That's nothing more than a large courtroom for multi-litigant trial that has a lot of litigators and a lot of different folks in the process that one of the regular courtrooms would not hold. This would be an unassigned courtroom. This particular courtroom would not have a judge's chambers or offices associated with it. It would be just for those special type trials that happen from time to time.
And how will it be assigned once it is assigned? Who will do that?
I would think the 8th Judicial Administrative Judge would do that. I'm assuming.
David? How big is that courtroom, square foot?
The mega?
This mega courtroom. What's the size of it?
2,800 square feet. The Family Law Center is about 2,000 square feet, one of those courtrooms. So it kind of gives you a feel. It's about.
What's the typical courtroom square foot?
2,200. And again, these new civil courtrooms are a little larger than the family courtroom because of the litigant well. Okay. Now, regarding also not listed on your slide, we also plan to move the 8th regional district. I'm sorry, I didn't write it down. Get the exact name of it.
Commissioner Brooks, just to make a comment on the question that you asked about assignment of that courtroom. The assignment lies within the jurisdiction of the Commissioner's Court. And we use the assignments as we have in the past with other vacant courtrooms. They make that request to the court through our office.
The 8th Administrative Judicial Regional Offices will be also in the building. That's Judge Jeff Walker. It also includes room for the district clerk, all on one floor. Also includes other support areas and secured parking for the judges.
Can I back up just 1 second and ask a question that I don't want to. Is the administrative judge of the region always a civil judge? So if, depending upon
it's gubernatorial appointment out of the 14th county region, and it's not dependent upon it being a civil court judge.
So if by chance and somewhere in the future it became either a criminal or family law judge within our County, there might be a necessity to try to move that administrative office to wherever that judge was located.
Yes, I don't think that, I'm not sure, but I don't think that, it might be that administrative judge would come from another county also.
Right.
And it would depend on where that judge might want to have his administrative office located, his or her administrative office located.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know, the assignment of the court during the interim of the vacant courtroom would be between the judges on who needed the larger courtroom for a special trial.
Okay.
Capital budget for the building is $67 million. The second line item of that is $51,300,000. That is $270 a square foot. When I put the numbers together back in late 2005, early 2006, we added 50% to the cost of the Family Law Center, and it came to $225 a square foot. That's what I recommended to the Commissioners Court we put in our budget. This project now is $270 a foot, which is much higher. And that's because I think of the Family Law Center, when we bid the project was early 2003, and by the time that we bid this project, most likely will be the spring of 2011. I suspect, as I mentioned last week, I think we'll be hitting a low point of construction costs in the next several months regarding the jail and medical examiner's office. I'm not sure about the civil courts project. I do know this. What I'm seeing and what I'm getting from my colleagues and reading is the fact that the architectural buildings index is what's happening with the architectural engineering industry. They're still laying off folks. I'm getting phone calls from architects and engineers on a weekly basis. What that tells me is the architects and engineering firms are not gearing up designing new projects. And what that tells me, that's a leading indicator of construction 9 to 12 months from now. So 9 to 12 months from now, and even possibly longer, there's not a lot of projects that are on the drawing board today. Now, that may change in 6 months. I'm not sure. But as of right now, we're carrying $270 a square foot for the building. Now, regarding the available funds, we do have unsold. We have $7.5 million worth of available funds there for the 1998 Courts Facilities Bond Project. Also, $62.3 million from the 2006. We have sold approximately $16 million of the 2006 bond funds to date. Add alternates, the committee and the design team felt there's some great affinity for the Court of Appeals to maybe possibly relocate to the Civil Courts building. And I think basically the reason of this is we haven't done a full master plan for the criminal court system in downtown Fort Worth in some time. Now, I do know from my experience what's happening today with our criminal court system is possibly if we relocated the Court of Appeals out of the Civil Courts building, that would free up a half a floor for us to do other things with. What we're doing with our criminal court system, it looks like we've already started kind of backfilling the 300 West Belknap building. We've backfilled it with a mental health diversion court. The direct court, which is the adult drug court, is asking for space in the 300 building. I know CSCD is busting at the seams in the 200 building. We also are now, it's a natural progression, what's happening with the DA's office. We just finished up the renovation on the 4th floor of the Tim Curry building. We took over a break room and made it offices. The next step is to take over conference rooms, because that's typically what happens in a building. When you have to have office space, those things go first. And it's happening now in our Tim Curry Criminal Justice Center. We're taking over break rooms. The next thing is conference rooms. And after that, we'll be figuring out how to squeeze them all in from that point on. So I think as we move forward, and I think we've talked about in the past, we probably need to look at doing a full programming space needs exercise for our criminal court system in the fairly near future.
We've been talking about doing that for quite a while, and I have been assuring criminal court judges that we were going to do that for quite a while. I think it's time that we actually did it.
I think one of the reasons that we have delayed that, and we've discussed with the court, is that we're, what are we at now, about 3 years out on this building, the civil courts building? So we were trying to get a little bit closer to the time that we would actually occupy the civil courts building before we did the space assessment. Things change. I mean, you heard today that David was talking about additional office spaces for the DA's office. That's something that came about simply because we have a new court now in that building. So our intention was to continue to move forward on this particular project as we got closer to go ahead and do the space analysis.
I understand that philosophically. However, neither of these buildings is a silo. Their functions are interrelated, and you can't do a good job of planning the one without taking a look at the other.
I would hope that what we try to do is anticipate how long we think the study will take, and then attempt to figure out when we think we're going to arrive in the new civil courts building and back that up. I feel certain that if we back that up and start at that point in time, then we'll have the study complete well before we actually end up moving into your estimated building.
Judge, I'd recommend we do this as part of the negotiations, the scope of work with the architects is to go ahead and include that programming needs assessment for the criminal piece. And at that time, when we come back to you in our next presentation with a schematic design, which will be several months from now, probably 4 to 5 months, at that time, bring you the results of the criminal courts programming exercise and options, and you can make a decision at that point whether or not you decide to move the Court of Appeals to the new building or not.
I want to make sure I understood. Did you just imply that the same people who are doing the civil courts building would do that study?
Yes, I believe we put it in their RFQ to do that back a year or so ago, anticipating we might need to do this in the future. So it would help the court make decisions if we went ahead and had that study done, and at the same time do schematic designs and cost estimates, new cost estimates for the base building and also another floor for the Court of Appeals. We don't really know today if we really need that 20,000 square feet in the Terry Curry building. I would think generally we probably do, just from the experience I've had, but it certainly would be a good idea to confirm that with a detailed professional study.
And that's exactly the point.
Yes.
We don't know, and we need to know in order to properly plan this building.
And I guess one of the questions I would ask, I don't know that I had remembered having the same firm do the criminal courts part of it, and my question would be whether our bond money, which I'm assuming using to hire this firm to do the civil courts building, can be used to remodel the criminal courts building when that may not have been a part of the bond project that we stipulated. And at the same time, I would say that I think we would ultimately end up going out for an RFP on the remodeling, and there are probably going to be a lot of folks who are going to say, wait a minute, if you've given this part of it to the firm, then are you basically making the decision that they're going to be the ones that are going to redo the deal?
I do believe the order of magnitude, the cost of a programming exercise for all the criminal court system in downtown Fort Worth is probably in the order of $400,000 to $500,000. And that's correct. What you've said is correct. But I think we did make it part of our RFQ for professional services to do just the programming. I'm not sure we made it part of do a full-blown design for any criminal courts remodel. It would take
still have the question about the bond issue and whether we can spend the money for that type of a deal. So I think we need to look at that.
We'll ask that question. I will tell you that when we do structure those bond issues, that we make them fairly long or fairly wide so that it deals with any district court. But we'll check that out and come back with the court.
Okay.
And a programming exercise is not a remodel. It's a study.
Right.
Also, parking. I think we've got the seeds for a successful project, and I think one of the seeds that we had for the Family Law Center was parking, and I think that's one of the things that made it a successful project. And as I've gone along here with the design team and the user groups, it's really come to the front that parking, we may need to figure out what we need to do to address that. Currently, our Calhoun parking garage fills up in the mornings. It tails off in the afternoons, but it does fill up in the mornings with just family court activity and other folks. So I don't think it's going to handle additional court participants for civil courts. So I'd recommend we look at doing some parking studies there as well. I'd like to introduce Kirk Milligan with HOK Architects.
Morning. Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to present the program and concept design report for the new Civil Courts building. You should have received a copy of the program and the final report. I'm sorry we don't have the big boards here today to cover up the audience, but we're going to use the PowerPoint. With me today, besides my partners at HOK, we also have our partner firm HKS with John Richardson and Lori Adair, and our programming consultant from Carter Goble Lee, Alice Painter, and your construction manager at risk who's been providing the pre-con services, Yates Construction, is also present.
And Vin Dunn.
Yeah, and Vin Dunn. Thank you. We began the programming a little less than a year ago. We started off by conducting a review of the previous studies that had been completed. We surveyed the existing facilities and courtrooms, and over a several-week period conducted several dozen interviews with users, the judges, district clerk, jury services, and so forth. A preliminary program analyzing historical data and trends was developed, analyzing data and trends in population, number of cases, number of courts, and this provided the information for going forward for the future needs for the courts, district clerk, and jury services. As David said, we had a 3-day design charrette where the design team explored numerous possibilities and options in the building stacking, organization, and exterior massing. Members of the advisory committee participated daily to provide immediate guidance and immediate feedback. Based upon the charrette, the design team developed a pre-final conceptual plan, which the pre-construction services team then provided a conceptual estimate to verify the cost as compared to the program and the county's budget. The advisory committee reviewed the pre-final concept plan and suggested a subtle variation, which the design team incorporated, and again, the costs were re-verified, leading to the preferred solution that we have presented in the booklet and you will see again today. I want to thank the members of the advisory committee, again, led by Mr. Kelly and Judge Evans, for their continued guidance and who, without their support, this would not have been possible. Duncan Broyd will now walk you through the building's organization and floor plans, and Steve Janeway will walk you through the exterior massing. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As Kirk said, we had a very intensive process here, and I'm glad we did, because a lot of times when we've worked on courthouses, we've worked with a program which is a series of spreadsheets. People approve it, but they don't necessarily understand what the numbers translate into as a building. So going through this exercise of developing a conceptual plan has been very important. It's allowed everybody involved, and everybody was very actively involved in this process, to understand this is where my office might be, this is how I relate to other people in the building, this is how big a courtroom is, and how it lays out, so that them approving this plan is done with a lot more information than just a series of spreadsheets. So let me just walk you quickly through the plans to answer some of the questions you were bringing up before. If we could go to the next slide, please.
You've got the
I've got it.
Keyboard. And it would be the arrow that points to the right, I believe. No, wait a minute. Mr. Mania says that's not correct. It would have been logical.
Yeah. Yeah, but nothing's happening.
Well, good job, Mr. Mania.
There we go. Which one was that?
one going down through the slide program.
Okay. Oh, golly. We have two designs for the basement, one for the base building for the district court, and then we'll show you an option if you choose to put Court of Appeal on the top of the building. It's secure parking for 20 cars. It's the mechanical equipment, electrical equipment, and some building storage, which supports the building. Got it. This would be the option if the Court of Appeal goes on the top of the building, and it basically adds just 9 more parking spaces to that secure environment.
The entrance to the parking garage would be off of what street?
Sorry. Which street? Calhoun. Back Street.
Is it Calhoun?
Which one?
Jones is the back, so it would be Jones Street.
Yes. Sorry. The ground floor of the building, the front doors of the building and the public plaza, we've set the building back from the street edge a little, would be facing the historic courthouse across the park. We're able on the ground floor of the building to set the building back and tuck it in under the second floor, so you've actually got a covered entry to the building. One of the things we've worked hard at on this project is how we deal with jury services and jury call and the number of people that show up. Sometimes before the building is open, we can get them out of the weather at the doors of the building. Set the building up with potentially two entrances that are security screened, so that at those peak times we could bring perhaps jurors through one entrance and the public and employees through another. But you've got the flexibility to change that. At other times of day, you may close one of those entrances down and just use the single secure entrance.
Was there any discussion about having an entrance that would come in from the park side or from that
from the
side
parking garage?
facing the courthouse? No. There's the park area that's going to be in the front.
Yes, and
there's no way you can get into the building from the front of the building.
No, that is where the entrances are. We're facing
the side of the buildings, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
They're on Weatherford and they're on Belknap, but
That's
there's
correct,
nothing on the front of the building.
That is correct. No set of doors there. It's just open glazing that looks that way. If we were to go with a single entrance into the building, you might be able to locate it in the middle. But the desire to have two separate entrances to control the public flow, we need them to be far enough apart so that they don't cross.
If I can interject here for just a moment. The park that we're referring to is actually a sunken plaza. So
Trust me, I know that.
Okay. Most of the people will be approaching the buildings more from the corners than they will be from the direct face, simply because that's the only avenue in which pedestrians along the sidewalk will have easy access. That's why we thought it stronger to have the doors to the sides to be able to accept people and gather them there, as opposed to walking half the length of the block to find.
But it would also seem like you're in effect dictating that we're going to have two stations in which to come in at every time, as opposed to where if you had a collective area where they could come in on either side or the front and then come to the security area, there might be a time when you could close down some of the lanes of the security area and not have to always have two manned positions.
Yeah, we've had a number of those conversations and understand that this is still concepts.
Very conceptual.
And we've got to work through a whole detailed schematic design. But a couple of things that factor into that discussion.
You don't have room in the front because of the elevators. Proximity to the front wall.
And part of the issue with how you set up doors and security is that the people manning security don't want people inside the building and unscreened, because it's too easy for somebody to walk in with a briefcase, put it down and walk out if there's a large collection area inside the building. So we try to get that security equipment pretty close to those doors, but by having a covered area where the building above covers the area, you can at least get people out of the weather as they're waiting at the front doors. This solution as well, jury assembly day, you're probably running two sets of equipment and two sets of openings. The rest of the week, it's probably one door that's open and one set of security equipment, and the other doors are closed.
Well, in that
But you've got that
situation, then somebody's going to have to walk all the way around from one side of the building to the other side of the building, depending upon which side you decide to close.
Yeah, and part of that might be driven, if there's a parking study and some decision on where parking would be. I mean, this is early days. We've got the flexibility to move a number of these things around to address more detail.
Help me understand, in the white area, the two yellow squares or rectangles on either side.
Okay. As we go to the upper floors, the building fills more of the site. That's the location of the stairs that come down from the public areas on the courts floors and the office floors. And those stairs need to come all the way to the ground and discharge to the outside because of the fire codes. Those doors don't have hardware on the outside of them. So
But if somebody comes out them,
there's a camera on it, there's an alarm on
go in
it.
them.
Yes, but that's why we put a camera on those doors, and we'll also what's called a door position switch on those doors. They also have what's called a delayed egress device on the inside, so if somebody comes down and pushes on the panic bar to get out, it'll hold the door for 15 seconds, it'll set off an alarm in the control room, which will switch on a camera to see whether that is a legitimate emergency exit or somebody trying to get into the building. I mean, those are a lot of details that we've got to work out, but that's the principle of that action. Ground floor also has jury services located, so we can get those people in and into jury services very quickly, and they don't stress then the elevators in the building. Second floor is fundamentally the district clerk's floor. We were able to get the clerk onto a single floor so that all their staff are in one office space. We've got obviously a lot of work yet to do to lay out every office within that space. We also have that high-volume courtroom on the floor for the very large trials. It has its own jury deliberation room, doesn't have a chamber assigned to it, and as you can see, we've got the 8th Administrative Judicial Region office there on that floor, which is a relatively small office in the schemes of things. We then have 3 floors that are basically the same. 4 courtrooms per floor, 4 judges, 4 deliberation rooms, and a central public area and public gallery that is facing towards the historic courthouse. So we're looking there to focus the views in the building at the historic courthouse, and then access to 4 courtrooms on that floor and 4 judges behind in a much safer and more secure scenario than they currently have. We can move jurors backwards and forwards from the courtrooms to deliberation room without having to get out into public or private areas. We can get the judges to move to and from courtrooms or conferences with attorneys without needing to get into each other's chambers or crossing circulation. So it's a very efficient floor plan. And as I said, three floors at that.
The 12 courtrooms, the standard courtrooms on 3, 4, and 5.
Yes.
They're all the same size?
Yes, and we'll come to a drawing of those in a moment.
The perspective is kind of an optical illusion. They don't look the same size.
Okay, so some of that may just be how the projector is distorting the picture, but they are identical courtrooms, identical jury deliberation suites. This is the option for the Court of Appeal, if you choose to go with that. It's a single courtroom on that top floor, and then 9 chambers, including the Chief Justice and the court support that goes with those functions. Pretty straightforward layout with the courtroom in the center. As I said, in order to get this right and not have surprises down the road, budget or schedule-wise, we work really hard with courtroom layouts. This is one of a number of options. We haven't confirmed that this is the final option, but we work very closely with a big group of people on making sure that this courtroom was able to deal with the peculiarities of civil courts, the multi-litigant nature of it, multi-party trials, the ability to deal with impaneling juries, and understanding, we were able to use the family court courtrooms as a model for the sizes, the 45-foot width in the courtroom. Again, we feel more comfortable when people can say it's this wide, just like this one. as opposed to theoretical numbers. This also shows how the deliberation rooms work with their own bathrooms and a sound lock to solve some of those problems that you currently have with sound transmission and where jurors can be and go. It's a less than ideal situation today. All of these courtrooms have a couple of witness conference rooms outside them to allow attorneys, clients, witnesses to meet out of the public eye in some privacy, and all the courtrooms have sound locks on them so that the noise from the public area doesn't impact what's going on in the court. These are fairly standard things in a new courthouse, but we wanted to get these defined at the beginning. They're fairly simple plans at this stage, but you should know we've got into a fair amount of detail to understand how people move through the building. That's the most important part of getting a courthouse safe and secure and efficient, which ultimately saves you money. So here's a diagram that actually shows how a judge arrives at the building, drives into the basement parking, rides a private elevator.
Comment there?
Yes, sir.
If I'm not mistaken, you've got that car going the wrong direction on Jones, and that's a concern that I think Jones is a one-way street going south.
No. Well, just looking at, we can go back and check that, but looking at the Google plan there, the arrows on that street are actually pointing north.
Google may have Googled it. Because Jones goes south. Huh?
It goes north.
Jones
It
goes
south.
At that point.
Yeah.
Jones Street goes
I think
north.
it goes south.
It does. That's where I go from every day.
Somebody says it goes north, somebody says it goes south.
It goes
It goes north.
It goes north.
Yeah.
I go home
When it goes by our parking garage, it goes north.
Okay, so Jones is the one that goes right in front of the intermodal center?
Yes.
Yes.
Then it's going north. Okay, excuse me, go right ahead.
Yeah. Doesn't hurt to check, does it?
No, because I had thought that it was going south, and I was thinking you're bringing traffic in from probably where it's not going to work, but if it's going north, that's the way I...
Actually, to interject again, in setting that up, we actually considered the possibility that the directions of the streets might change in the future so that we didn't make decisions that would confuse that. Because it's always a possibility one-way streets become two-way streets or become one-way going in another direction. So we tried to make sure that we didn't do anything with the parking garage entry that would dictate a single direction for the traffic.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, and the loading is also on that side of the building, loading dock. But we've located two private elevators in the building, one to do service for the building, one to move staff through the building. It would be card access. They're located in the same part of the building, so if one is busy, the other one can be used backwards and forwards. It seems to be more efficient. And this then shows how the judges and staff would then move to their chambers or to their courtrooms, again, without getting into the public circulation.
Commissioner Johnson confirms it's going north, so...
He's just been out.
I engineered it. Jones is going north.
Thanks, sir. So Steve's going to run you through what the building looks like if you have no more questions about the plans.
It's very easy to be confused in that whole section of the city as to what direction things are going. These are typical elevations of the building as it's currently conceptually conceived of, and I'd like to caution that these elevations in 3D studies are for massing only. They're not intended to depict color or material choices at this point. That's something that we would work out as the design process moves forward. I know there's some
Thank you for
sensitivity
telling
to
us that. I didn't want us to leave here thinking it was a white building and
Yes,
end up being a gray.
I know there's a great deal of sensitivity about that.
Very gray building.
As long as it's not a light tan brick, we'll be all right.
Light tan brick.
I appreciate your incorporating on the front elevation, the west elevation, the angels.
No, thank you very much.
I consider those to be public art, and I hope that they survive the various cuts in the approval process.
I just hope
of
they
this building.
survive the cuts when we take them off the building.
Yeah, I think that might be the more serious question about it. But I will say that in all of our designs, we've attempted to allow for the incorporation and possibility of those angels being a part of the design, dependent on what we find out about how they're anchored to the existing building and whether we can remove them or not. At least we're creating possibility for that to be incorporated into the project.
Right there with a screwdriver. And
They are in pieces, I know that. I know they can be removed. It's a question of what the fastening devices that we can't see are and how much damage that does to it as we bring them
Just
on.
styrofoam.
I think those are stone.
Indiana limestone?
It's Indiana limestone.
I mean, behind the...
Oh, behind, yeah. There's styrofoam all around it. I doubt the styrofoam's behind it, but we'll see. At any rate, these conceptual elevations and 3D massing sort of depict how we think the solutions in the plan could play out in terms of the fenestration and massing of the building. And in each of these, what you're looking at is a 6-story building which incorporates the appeals courts being located at the top, so that we have some idea of what that does to the overall massing of the building as well. So in this first image, you're looking at the west facade, which is the facade that faces onto the park and looks back toward the historic courthouse. And then the north facade is one of the adjacent facades to west, and it would be along, I want to say that's Weatherford, would be that street. And once again, it doesn't move.
It'd be Belknap.
Sorry.
I wasn't going to say anything because I've been wrong every time I said something.
I can never remember which of those two streets I encounter first. And here you can see the east and south elevations. The east elevation is really the back of the building where, along Jones, where access to parking and access to service happens. And the south elevation is actually the street that abuts the parking garage across the street.
On that east elevation, are you anticipating that the drive-in would be just to the right and left of the glass, the middle glass column?
Yes, actually, the drive into the parking happens on one side of it, and then the loading docks happen to the other side of it.
Okay.
And again, we've taken great care to make, as a matter of fact, in several of the schemes, we have flip-flopped those two functions back and forth, depending on what's going on in the plans. So we've taken great care to make sure that there's nothing there that affects any decisions in the future about the direction of that street or any of the other functions going on around it. You can see that in the building what we do try to incorporate is some notion of a base to the building, a middle zone of windows, and then a top to the building so that it has more traditional sort of cues in terms of how it fits into the fabric and the context of the other buildings around it and how it relates to the historical courthouse, which is across the park.
On the south view, it appears as though at the very top there that something is kind of an overhang.
What you're seeing is the west facade, which if I go back a slide, if it will allow me to do that, actually stands up taller than the other three facades of the building. So there is a parapet piece that cantilevers back on that you can actually see as you look up at the face of the building. The idea behind that is to give the top of the building more mass so that it doesn't appear that it's like the old false western facades, which just come up for the dimension of the parapet. It gives it a great deal more mass, and so it has a greater sense of permanence and importance. I have to press, and it moves very slowly. That's not me. I know. This is one three-dimensional view of the scheme that we were just looking at. So this is standing at the corner of the Family Law Center looking back across the sunken park, which actually we've gone to great length to model the environment of the park and what the form of the park is and how it affects decisions relative to this building, because there is a strong impact as a result of the form and character of that park as it relates to the building. Duncan was referring earlier to the gallery at the ground floor. As you can see in this image, we hold back the functions of the ground floor so that we create an architectural gallery all along the base of the building, anticipating that people are going to be approaching the building obliquely most of the time rather than walking through a park and approaching the building frontally. So we've tried to anticipate all the different ways that might play out and what the impact is to the building. Focusing the views, you can see in this facade that the glass windows would focus the views back toward the historic courthouse and give a very strong connection from this building back to what we sort of conceive of as the center of justice in terms of how the county is arranged, and sort of making a very strong connection between all of these buildings. This is the Calhoun Street view as you're coming up Calhoun Street and you're at the edge of the parking garage. You can see how the facade curves and how the facade really sort of has almost an ability to hover off the face of the main body of the building as it relates back to the context of the street. The main facade is also pulled back from the curb line some dimension as well, so that there's actually space for exterior public walkways that are wider than the traditional 10 feet in Fort Worth. And then there is the space which is underneath the building as well, so that on inclement days, people have the ability to queue going through the entrances without having to be exposed to either rain or very hot sun. Now, this is an alternate proposal which we included in the package as well, because as we've sort of arrived at the different configurations of the plan, one of the things we sought to look at is whether there was a way to sort of incorporate using the angels in a more dramatic way and also incorporate a facade which sort of focused the interior public gallery more effectively back across the park to the existing courthouse. So this alternate facade has the same plan configurations as the ones that you looked at before, but it just sort of handles the final solution in a slightly different way. And as we flip through here, you can see these.
What are the panels? Obviously, you've got a window curtain in the middle. What are those panels?
To either side of it. In this scheme, we really feel that the entire front facade could be stone. Again, we're trying to be cost effective in our utilization of materials, but one reason to make this front facade stronger in its architectural character is that we could really clad it entirely in stone and make it a very important facade, and then use precast concrete or something like that along with stone accents to sort of clad the rest of the building as it flanks behind it. One reason we're thinking this way is it might be an effective way to have budget control in the future and not trade away the real architectural character of the building. These views are exactly the same views as you saw before in the earlier scheme, but you can see here from Calhoun as you approach the building obliquely, the curvature of the facade where it curves in and then curves back out again actually becomes rather dramatic. And I think this is the final view. So I will, questions from Commissioner's Court, or I can turn the podium back over to David.
Comments, questions?
I don't like your optional view.
Okay.
My personal opinion.
The optional view, again, I think what you said is that it would kind of start to curve in like the first one did,
right,
but then it kind of comes back
goes
out.
back out again.
And then goes back in from that
Right.
standpoint.
It makes it a single sort of sweeping facade across the front of the building, which is just, as I say, an alternate view, an alternate look at the same idea as the first building.
My initial reaction is the same as Commissioner Fickus's, but if there's going to be a long-term cost differential, I might be persuaded.
Okay.
What kind of material were you looking at with the original? Just kind of like a half moon, I guess.
I think in all of the discussions we've had, one of the buildings that we sort of make reference to is the federal courthouse at Burnett Plaza, looking at how that building is arrayed and put together. We also look at the Family Law Center and the materiality of that building. So we're trying to do things which complement the existing buildings, the courthouse buildings, as the city of Fort Worth sort of use them, and try to come up with material palettes that relate back to that broader context. This is a public institutional building, if you will, and it should have that sort of character materiality that relates it to the broader discussion of what these buildings are doing in the city. So to answer your question in a long version, that's what we're really trying to do. So there are any combinations of stone, brick, potentially precast concrete as a more cost-effective way of imitating stone, particularly if it were to be Texas limestone. So there are several different material palettes that we've at least discussed conceptually as we create the form of the building, but we have not done a detailed material study to say that I'm committed or think that any one of them is more powerful than the other.
I would hope you eliminate the term precast concrete from your repertoire.
Vocabulary? Yeah.
To be used on this building.
Okay.
I think this is a great design, not the optional one, but I think 50 years from now, people will say, that's a remarkable building if it's made out of what I would call natural materials versus precast stone.
Well, it could be clay brick. I mean, and there's a certain cost effectiveness to using that material as well. So I don't mean to be exclusively speaking about precast concrete. What I'm trying to say is there's a whole general palette of things that we've discussed along the way, which I think could be very effective in terms of controlling the budget and also rendering a very nice civic building.
I would, as far as just initial perceptions or initial reactions, I like the first option, the original option.
Okay.
I don't know at what point in time we need to make that decision. You're fixing to tell us that, right? So why don't you come on up here and tell us what decision you
David's
want?
standing in the wings.
Thank you. The next step is for me to ask permission from Commissioners Court to move forward with negotiations of a full architectural and engineering design contract with HOK HKS. However, as the way we structure our architectural engineering contracts is such fashion that we have listed which departments go in the building. And so I will need some direction there. And as far as you've given them direction as far as, I guess, the external design, however you'd like to see it, and I think they will probably bring that back to you in the next presentation, which is schematic design.
Can we, what's the next slide that's, there you go, tell us what we're supposed to do.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so,
Don't let him get it. He's moving it back there because the system.
so the first step, first off, I'd like to thank the committee for everything, and I'm making the assumption, maybe wrongly so, that thank you very much. That your recommendation, as far as your approval, was the first one that we saw and not the optional?
Correct. I'd like to thank the court for appointing this advisory committee to assist the commissioners in this important project. We've enjoyed it. We appreciate the honor of being on this committee. And I think we've got a project here that's going to be meaningful in this county for many, many years to come.
Well, thank you again very much. Is anyone at this point want to keep the optional view in, or are you satisfied with?
I like the base elevation.
Okay, so base hospital, you know the one.
Okay. The base project is the 12 district courtrooms, which provides 2 future. It also is jury services, district clerk, secure parking, and those sorts of things. Now, we can, if you like, to move forward during schematic design with we talked about a study with about the criminal justice system. I need to go back and review the RFQ for sure to make sure it includes it. Or if you'd like, we can do a brand new RFQ for those services, for programming services for the criminal portion of it. And also, would you like to go ahead and move forward with the Court of Appeals during the schematic design phase to give you how it stacks up?
Court members?
Is there a request from the Court of Appeals for their wanting to move down here?
Yes.
Why?
I think...
building?
No, I think it has to do with, they service, I believe, 12 counties and west of here, and I think this particular project includes 2 additional justice chambers, so it's expansion space for them to meet the future growth of those 12 counties.
I would like that, just from my perspective, I would like that as an alternate as we go through the design, and I think that's what we've talked about in terms of looking at that as a design. I'm assuming that, given what we've just said as the concept, what we're talking about is adding a floor, and that's not going to change the way the building, I mean, obviously it's going to change the height of the building, but we're still going to have the same top on there if we go 5 floors or 6. It's just going to be, there's going to be less room for the angels at the top than there would otherwise have been.
Sensibly, that's correct. Clearly, the proportions of a building that's 1 story shorter has some impact in terms of how you choose where the base, middle, and top of the building happen. We'd have to make some adjustments for that. So that's why it would be important to know exactly what the configuration of the building is during the schematic phase and be able to make those decisions appropriately.
I'm not sure I need to see what the cost is. And that needs to be some, and I guess along that same type line, do we know what courts are being built for? You've estimated $270 a square foot. Do we know what they're being built for today?
Yes. I'm working on a number of courts projects around the southeast, and we're looking at 260 to 280, depending on the market. As David said, it's very difficult at the moment. I know if we bid a project today, we get pretty competitive, low numbers. Trying to predict how that'll be a year out is a little tough. But
Well, if you're bidding at 260 to 280 right now, then that 270 is probably, it could be a low number, but we'll just have, I hear what you're saying. If we're not going out till 2011, we've still got some time. But I don't think this court's going to be ready to say go forward with sixth floor until we have some idea of where we are on the budget.
Right. And there is in your package, there's a conceptual budget for adding the Court of Appeal, but obviously a little bit more detail, a little bit more work, we'll be able to refine those numbers better.
Okay.
I think you need to look into it. I think they need to.
Yeah, I think we need that as a
part of it.
Okay.
At least we'll know. It won't be any cheaper to do it, to have to relocate that court 5 years from now.
Well, I don't think if we don't put it in there, they're not going to get relocated.
I'm requesting permission to move forward with negotiations of design, architectural engineering design contract with HOK and HKS for 12 civil district courtrooms, all associated support areas that go along with that, district clerk and security parking, also the options of looking at the Court of Appeals, moving to the building, and also possibly looking at some parking alternatives for this project. No?
Is that agreeable with everyone?
Well, I think we have to consider the fact that we're moving a court down there, and we aren't, without considering parking, we aren't going to be prepared for it.
I agree with that. I think, the obvious place may be to talk with our friends across the street and about the area that they've got to the north. I know they have already planned surface level parking, but it may be something that we could do to look at a parking facility.
That will be one of the things, Judge, that we asked the design team to look at.
I think they're probably wanting to make nice right now.
And we certainly want to make nice. So I think that's good. What else?
That's it.
I think, do you have the answers you need?
Yes, I do. I'm looking for permission to move forward with negotiation of the contract.
Move approval.
And I'll bring it back to you.
We have a motion and a second to give you permission to move forward in bringing back to us a contract.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion or questions? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all again for all the work. I think the court feels very good about what we saw today and are excited about moving forward as rapidly as we can given the economy. Thank you all.
Thank you.
We do have an audience participation today. Reverend, I believe it's Crier Tatum Sr.?
Yeah.
Kiev, I'm sorry. Come forward, sir. Please restate your name, your address, and we'll welcome your comments.
Thank you. Judge and Commissioners Court, my name is Kiev Tatum, and I serve as the president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. We are housed at 7510 John T. White Road in Fort Worth, Texas. I stand before you today on behalf of Harmony Missionary Baptist Church. On October the 6th, 2009, Constable Zan Zitler, Precinct 3, has declared that by virtue of a order of sale from the Turner County District Court, 236 Judicial District, that they will sell property owned by the Harmony Missionary Baptist Church. The church owns 5 lots on East Rosedale, and the constable has declared that tract 1 and tract 4 of those lots will be sold for taxes. The amount of the judgment that the Tarrant County tax assessor and collector has determined at this point is $7,895.61 on 2 lots from 1993 to 2007. The Southern Christian Leadership Conference emphatically opposes the sale of this land on the steps of the courthouse, and we also stand on behalf of 300 plus other churches throughout Tarrant County who are currently being assessed taxation on property owned by these churches by the Tarrant County, rather the Tarrant Appraisal District. We believe that taxation on churches are ungodly. We believe that when a government decides that it will use the tool of taxation to tax and take land that has been set aside for God's purposes, that it's wrong. We believe that as we try to get or gain support for this, that the continual opposition to us working diligently to change the state law that allows the Tarrant Appraisal Districts to tax these churches, that the opposition of the associations that represent county government and also those who represent the tax assessors and collector agencies around the state, that their opposition continue to not only hinder churches from doing the Lord's work, that they become direct oppressors of churches who are doing the work. It must be noted that Tarrant County has a strong history of supporting churches within this community. Before I came over here, I had a chance to stop by the courthouse and go into the little museum. I tend to go in there to kind of get a feel and understanding of those who have found this county. And while I was in there and I read about General Worth and General Tarrant and E.M. Daggett and M.T. Johnson and Julius Fields, that they knew the importance of the church because when they erected their first Masonic Lodge back in 1857, they opened their doors to what place where the first school and the first church would be able to conduct the charity work in which they were commissioned by God to do. But it saddens me that in 2009 that we have forgotten the Constitution that provides for the separation of church and state, and that we have forgotten that the American Revolution was fought and many people fought and died for the simple fact that the government, Mother England, was enacting rules and regs and laws against the church. And that the greatness of America was not only our right to freedom of speech and freedom of assembly, but it was the freedom of religion. When you as a county commissioner, and we as a county and as a state, allow an unelected body to assess a church house and its property to be taxed, we are, in my estimation, are in direct violation of what makes our country great. Now, we can all pass the buck, which so many has, or we can all continue to remain silent. But Edmund Burke said the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men and women, in this case, to do nothing. Patrick Henry said, "Is life so dear or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chain and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death." The Bible says in Psalms 127, "Except the Lord builds the house, they that labors in vain. Except the Lord guard the city, they that watches in vain." Well, you have been given the awesome responsibility of guarding our great county. And I'm sorely afraid that if this Commissioner's Court does not take a definitive stand against the taxation on the church, that your hard work that you so graciously do day in and day out would be in vain. We ask that you would put a moratorium on the counties taxing and taking any more churches until we've had an opportunity to put together a plan that would allow us to collectively go to the legislature this next session to have this particular law in the tax code removed so that no other church will have to live under the burden of unfair taxation. And why should Tarrant County lead this effort? Because through our research, Tarrant County is one of the leaders in the taxing and taking of church property. May God bless you, and may He keep you is our prayer.
Thank you, Reverend Tatum, for coming out today. Because this is not on our agenda today, we can't discuss this item, but I would encourage you to get with Mr. Manius, and we will see what we can do on this particular issue, and may in the future put it on the agenda so we can have an open discussion about that. Thank you again for being here today. Mr. Manius, anything else?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
The Commissioner Court will now recess the open session and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempted under Sections 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code.
I was going to ask you if you know anybody at Wells Fargo.
Now, we agendized so we can go ahead and put them clerks in the same, just one person, down with different.
We're going to just combine them?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we agreed on.
As a county clerk?
Huh?
County clerk.
Yeah, right.
Okay. County and district.
Let's call them both.
They had that sometimes out here.
We're ready to go live. In fact, we're on.
Having returned from closed session, we will now hear the following matters.
May it please the Court, under item 9E, 3, 4, and 5, the District Attorney's Office is asking that you authorize an additional $40,000 in attorney fees for those 3 cases to come from the district clerk's professional liability fund.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
It does not please the court. That's the discussion.
I was waiting on you to make that motion.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Now, okay, did that cover
Didn't have to
both
like it.
the items? Because I thought we had 3. Okay, we had 3 items.
3 items.
Okay.
And we did vote on them.
We did. We might vote again if you like.
I voted all I'm over today.
I'm done.
We're adjourned.
What's that?